Okay, I think we are live. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Day 2 ADE. I'm looking around the room and everyone's looking remarkably fresh for day 2. Is this the case? How are we feeling? Okay, some people unsure. Well, if you are unsure, what better way to cure your hangover than to spend an hour talking with my special guest, DJ, producer, remixer, and I think you'll agree with me, crowd favorite. Please give a very warm welcome to KiNK.
Thank you guys.
So KiNK, you join us ADE 2022 in Roland's 50th anniversary year, which began in Osaka in Japan in 1972. Can you tell us the first time you saw or heard a Roland instrument?
Yeah, definitely can tell what was the time. It was the year 1991. I was a kid. I was a young teenager, and I bought a record by the British group KLF.
Nice.
And there was this song called "What Time Is Love." It was the opening song of the record, and there was this sound, this bubbling, squelchy sound. It immediately became one of my favorite sounds. Obviously, that was the pre-internet era. There was not so much information at that time, especially in my country, Bulgaria. We just became a democracy, and all this music and basically the Western culture was very new. And I was just this kid, buying cassettes, and I had no access to music magazines and any kind of information. So it was just me, this tape and this sound, which it drove me crazy. And many years later, I learned, okay, that's the Roland TB303. But yes, I definitely remember that moment, the first time I'm hearing this sound.
So touching upon the 303, did you then have a mission to try and get your own one, or to try one out, or?
Yeah, I had a mission, but that came much later, when it's probably 9 or 8 years later, when I finally understood, okay, this is the name of the synthesizer. But again, in my country, I don't think, even up to date, I don't think anyone owns a 303, original one. So at that point, it was pretty impossible to put my hands on a real one. But I think towards the late 90s, there was this company called Propeller Heads. They did the Rebirth software clone, which was not perfect, but I guess the closest I can get to a real one. But my mission to get a good sounding 303 continued.
Well, we can try and help you with that.
Yeah, you did.
So, I mean, why? So Roland's been around for 50 years now. What do you think's the secret to that legacy? Why do you think we're still relevant today?
Well, what I see with Roland is the company is not settling down with the old achievements. And now when I follow Roland closely in the past 10 or 15 years, obviously a lot of the fans of the company, they constantly want reissues and clones of the same old machines, which were great. But Roland have their own. You guys have your own vision, and you make new machines. Sometimes inspired by your legacy, but generally you guys are trying new stuff. And maybe at first the customers not getting exactly what they want, but over time, I'm also talking about myself. Sometimes I buy a new product with certain expectations, and they're not fulfilled because I expect, exact clone of 303 or 909, for example, and the machine doesn't do that, but it does way more. And over time, these instruments, they grow and on me, and they become more useful. So, what I think of Roland, it's a company which constantly innovates and try new things, and these instruments, they become classic over time, which happened. The same thing happened with 808, 303. Those were quite unsuccessful products when they were released. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when they were released, they weren't designed or how they turned out. And Roland's legacy was built upon people using our instruments, for what they weren't designed for. I mean, 303 was, it's a simulated bass player. 808 was meant to be an accompaniment to an organ player. So, but you've built such a reputation about using these machines in a way that maybe they weren't intended for. I mean, was that always part of the case for you?
Yeah, it was, and I guess also that's the history of dance music. I guess a lot of the originators of house music and techno, I guess they wanted to make probably beautiful disco music with highly orchestrated parts, but they had budget just to buy a drum machine and a synthesizer, and they had to figure out how to make beautiful music just with those technically restricted tools. And as it's a cliche, but people say the limitations are creative. So in that case, it works. But talking about using instruments not in the way they are made to be used, I heard a rumor that Kakehashi-san, the creator of Roland, when he designed the 808, he used components, he used capacitors which were not matched, basically low quality components because of the budget limitations at that time. And people say that's the reason, first of all, none of the 808s sound the same. And also there are certain sound artifacts because of their low quality components, which now we consider that sound like a magic. But I guess also that magic was because Kakehashi-san didn't use the right parts.
Actually, there was a transistor company.
I don't
in
know,
Japan.
is that true?
It's true.
Yeah.
But the transistor company in Japan, I think they made 11,000 TR-808s, and they discontinued them because he found that I think it was something like 3% of the transistors were faulty, and that made a specific fizzing sound that he liked. And that company then went bust. And then when they went bust, the 808 was discontinued because he couldn't buy those transistors anymore. So yeah, it's true. True story.
Right.
I don't know if anyone saw the 808 movie. I think it's actually, I don't know if you can see it now, but that had the interview where he talked about that. And I had the privilege of being in his house when he was talking about that. Also, a funny story. He had a picture of McDonald's on his wall. This is the founder of Roland, by the way, Mr. Kakehashi. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, why have you got a picture of McDonald's on your wall? And he said, oh, my wife never liked me eating junk food, so this is just to annoy her. I thought that was really funny. But we have a lot of people in the room. Hands up for people who are music creators, producers, DJs. Okay, basically everyone.
Beautiful.
So we're going to do a Q&A later, but in terms of tips that you've learned in the last 12 years of doing this, what tips have you got for people both in the studio and playing live?
Everybody have different approach to their own thing, but what works for me is to use machines which are as simple as possible. So when I'm on stage, I don't think of digging through menus. And it's also nice to use a device which is very rich in functions, but just the way I use it, I try to find a way which is more simple, and I guess that's one thing very important. Sorry, I had something else to say in mind, but it went away.
No problem.
But basically, yes, simplicity, and I think it's quite important to develop some sort of muscle memory, so you don't. It's fun and it's amazing to get lost into sound and to experiment, but also you play in front of people, and these people sometimes they don't have the patience to wait for you to design the perfect hi-hat in the live situation. So at least my approach to it is to use the most simple device, or if the device is very rich and complicated, just to use it in a very simple way, not try to explore all the possibilities, but to use it in some sort of a safe way on stage. Because I love to explore sound on my own in the studio. I can design kick drum for 2 hours and longer, but when we are in the club, we share a very short moment, and I think it's not nice to put the people through a torture of like going through all the features. So I guess that's two things, simplicity and muscle memory when you play live.
I'm sure some people would disagree that it's torture, but I get your point for sure. And what about in the studio? Like, I know that I don't know if you still work like this, but I know that you used to create tracks, but then come back to them whilst working on other projects. Is that still the case? And would you recommend that?
Yeah, I'm coming back to this way of working. So I started working only with a computer. It's probably 20 plus years ago. Because again, because of very limited budget, I just couldn't afford even a MIDI controller. So my entrance into becoming a music producer was not through hardware. It was just a computer, which gave me the abilities to work on projects for years and to come back to them. And I was quite comfortable with that. And over the time, I became a touring artist, and I was able to afford different types of equipment. And I had this romantic vision of like having more hardware, new or vintage. I had this vision of, capturing the moment. And I thought the gear is going to give me certain sound character, which unfortunately didn't work so well for me. Especially now I'm a father. I have 2-year-old daughter, and a lot of time goes with her, and it's my choice also. I'm very happy to do that, to dedicate that time. But now making music, like this endless testing of filters and oscillators in the studio, is finished.
That time is done.
That time is done, and
R.I.P.
I'm definitely back to using my computer much more, and the ability to store patches and to go back and forth through projects, go on stage, play your track, come back to the studio, change settings. It's pretty amazing, and I'm not telling you not to use hardware. Actually, I continue trying and buying equipment, but the way I use the hardware at the moment is more like inspirational tool, because for me the idea is the most important thing. So still the hardware have a very big part of my workflow, but I gave up the idea of building this giant organism of gear and the need to record and capture the moment. I would rather now use my laptop and 1, 2, 3 devices, which I change every session. So I'm coming back more to this old way for me of working, but basically computer-based and 1 or 2 machines for inspiration.
Yeah, sounds great. So I wanted to talk about, looking at the lineup for this year's ADE, it's so incredible. It's really super diverse. And I wondered if you've got any people who are playing this year that you are excited about potentially seeing yourself, or that you could give a tip to anyone to go and check out.
Yeah, basically, yesterday I wanted to see, I'm not sure if I can pronounce the name correctly, Nadia Struywig. I think it's a girl who is a DJ, but also amazing live performer and composer. She's supposed to play yesterday, but I heard there is some problem with her luggage. So maybe I'm not sure if she's still playing during the end of the AD, but I would love to either see her playing or just say hello. And I'm not sure if it's tonight or tomorrow, but my friend Vril is playing. He's a very good, how to say, techno artist, more on the deeper side of techno. And I'm gonna check him out. And obviously, on Saturday, beside I'm playing, I'm opening for Mr. Carl Cox, who is gonna do not a DJ set, but a live set. And I had a chance to see his live set this summer. And I mean, I like him as a DJ. He's a legend, obviously, and always delivering. But I have to say, I'm very surprised that the live set was even better than his DJ set. So on Saturday, definitely the cherry on the cake is going to be Carl Cox live.
There we go. So try and get down
at the Ziggo Dome venue. It's also an amazing venue with amazing sound system.
Incredible. That sounds special. So the next thing we want to talk to you about and hear is looking at the evolution of your TR setup. So we have today the TR8.
Shall I go
please.
on?
Yeah, go back. So we have the TR8, we have the TR8S, and then the new kid on the block is the IRA Compact T8. So let's start with the TR8. Let me move over here so I'm not in everyone's way. But yeah, can you maybe talk us about some of the features of the TR8, why you like it, and maybe show us some sound examples, please?
Yeah, every artist have his instrument. Some DJs prefer to stick to vinyl. The newer generations, they discover the new media players. For the producers, obviously Jeff Mills, a hero. He's known for his magic use of the original TR-909. And I guess my instrument is a TR-8 because that's the drum machine I used the longest. And basically, when I started to develop my live set, pretty much at that time, the TR8 was released. And it's probably, I mean, at the moment, there are way better drum machines. For example, the 8S, it's much richer, much better. And eventually, one day, I'm gonna switch to it. But yeah, TR8 is my machine. I know it inside out. And what I like about it, it's the simplicity. So I'm not gonna spend too much time with it. I'm gonna play around a little bit so you can make a difference between the old and the current. Yeah, shall we make some beats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, what fascinates me with the drum machines, is especially the Roland drum machines, is you can tap record, which I do all the time. I don't have any stored patterns in my machine, so basically I start from blank. Maybe there is a kick drum, but the rest I just do in the flight. Sometimes you want to step sequence because certain things can be random, and it's also fine to make a mistake, but certain things you want to be clocked very well. So I tap record, but I like to also step sequence stuff if I want them to be tight. And that reverse, I mean, there's this feature on the TR8, it's called scatter, and a lot of people didn't use it, but I find this feature very useful because it would let me lock a sound, and it would let me change the pattern while the machine is repeating the same sound. And then when I unlock the sound, bam, I go to the next phase of the music. So let me demonstrate. So that's all about the TR8. I'm obviously it's more of a 808 inspired machine, but I'm more of a 909 fan. So for those who are not familiar, 808 is it's a purely analog machine. It sounds a bit more softer. And 909 it's very digital based. I mean, there's some analog sounds like the kick, the toms, and the snare, but the hi-hats, the cymbals, they're samples with a very low resolution. And what it does, the sound is much more stronger in the mix, and that's why I'm gravitating towards the 909. But yeah, this is fairly simple machine. It works very well for my live sets, but I don't really use it in my productions because it cannot do more than what the original machines did like 40 years ago. And when you make records in 2022, you don't want to sound exactly like the people that did music 40 years ago. So let's move on to the TR-8S. It can do everything that the TR-8 can do, but you can have more of a control over the sound. You can design the sound better, and also obviously you have a lot of different new engines which do FM and obviously virtual analog style of sounds. So let's jam a little bit with this one. First, I'm gonna load the 909 KiNK I did myself, so you can hear the difference. Like this is more of the TR-8 is capable just to do classic emulation, but with the TR-8S you can expand and just make the sound a bit more powerful. So let's do that. You can hear how much fatter it sounds. It's the same kick drum, but everything is just so much fatter. So it obviously sounds much faster. That's just a 909 emulation, but with all the new features, you can simulate some sort of, obviously you have a compressor on the master, you have various distortions on the different channels, but also, I mean, I wanted to have some sort of sidechain compression on the whole signal. I wanted the kick drum to affect the rest of the drums, which basically is not possible with this machine, but because this machine is so rich in functions, I found a workaround. I just put an LFO on each channel, and I clock the LFO to the kick. So even there is no actual sidechain compression, you can fake it, and that's really cool with this machine because there's so many options. The limit is just your imagination. But let's go to the interesting part. Actually, because I don't use that much this machine, these days I'm mostly using diapers, dealing with my little daughter, so that's most of my time goes there. And because I knew I'm gonna do this talk, and I wanted to investigate what's new with this machine, and just this week I put the new FM engine, and right now we're gonna explore it. Together. As long as I manage to actually to load it. It always happens like that, even when I have friends in the studio and I want to show them this very special thing that I found, and exactly at that moment it doesn't work. So I'm just gonna reset the machine, but it will be back shortly, just in a couple of seconds. So this week I was practicing with the FM engine, and I'm like, wow, I was so stupid not to try this before. All right, okay. So basically, all the sounds I have here are with the FM engine, and you have, I mean, the frequency modulation synthesis is quite complicated, but all the choices of controls here I made very smartly, so you can, yeah, it's very expressive. Let me do something with it. Yeah. Thank you. You're very patient. Thank you. So, and the thing is, as I said, I don't really have the experience with this new firmware. So what I did is not that much of a prepared or practiced showcase. So if I can do it, you also guys can do it. I hope I can inspire, you know, for those who own this machine, definitely try the features of the new engine. And I'm still gonna walk through some of the functions of this machine and why I think it's one of the best drum machines right now, and why I should, you know, be less lazy and move on it. There is this polyrhythm feature. Basically, you can have different loop length for each sound. Let me try to do more simple pattern, more of a straight kick drum. Okay, here you go. Here it is. Yeah, and also message to all the instrument manufacturers. I think the delete button is something really important, and luckily, with all the Roland gear, there is a delete button, and that works very well. And also message to all the people who want to start performing live, like find your deleted button. So as much as it's important to be able to layer and generate sound, it's as important also to be able to, you know, go out of it. So luckily with Roland, it's quite simple. I'm just gonna loop this channel in a different length. So I'm just gonna say last step is shorter than 16 steps. It's gonna go like this. And I'm gonna loop this also differently. Loop this differently as well. And I just love these patterns which are just catching after each other, and because of these different, how to say, time signature for each channel, you can listen to the same loop forever without getting tired of it. So that's my definitely favorite feature of the TR-8S, and I should definitely start using this one more. And this one, the T8, it's still not part of my live set, but I bring it everywhere. It will also become part of my live set when I just want to get rid of the software emulation of TB303, and I'm going to use this one instead. But it's, yeah, I need more time and more sleep. But yes, every time I'm on the road, I take this with me, and I'm when I'm flying, I'm sketching ideas, jamming with this little one. Obviously, it runs on battery, and in such a little box, you have so much power because you can process the channels individually. You can also process the master, so you can get sound which already is very warm and processed. In the back in the days, you would need to invest probably something about $10,000 to $20,000 to get that sound. Now you have it in this little box, and you can bother your neighbor by seat in a plane with some acid. So let's see how that's gonna work. Let's see how this is gonna work. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not using a mixer here. So now all the machines are chained through each other, and that's also pretty cool. Okay. And now this supposed to play, but as I said, it's always when you want to show some. Ah, it's working. Fantastic. Gonna sequence simple kick drum. Yeah, it's pretty fat. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I couldn't imagine. No, thank you, guys. Like years ago, I couldn't imagine it would be possible to make for such a also for such a short amount of time without any preparation or pre-programming that you can do such a groove on the fly. So I'm pretty impressed, and I'm very happy. I live. Some people are very attached to the old times. I'm very happy to mix old with new. So I think we live in a very exciting times for music.
Amazing. 1, 2, is my mic still working? 1, 2, can you hear me? Okay, if you want to come back round, we can give it up for KiNK. Incredible stuff.
Thank you.
So inspiring. So we have some time now for Q&A. So go for it.
Cool. How you doing, man? I'm
Good.
associate editor with Reverb.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm obviously user of the platform.
Yeah, great. That's wonderful to hear. What was the first piece of gear that sort of got you going, particularly for your live sets?
Oh yeah. The second was a TR8. The first was Novation Launchpad because it was just released also when I started to transform from being a DJ to traditional DJ to being a live act, and basically because I always look at myself more like a DJ than a musician, I wanted to structure my live set more like a DJ set. Basically, I didn't want it to have an arrangement with. I didn't want it to be a concert. I wanted to be able to jump through different tracks. And the Innovation Launchpad would allow me to do that. So basically, still up today, my live set is more like a Ableton loaded with tracks. So it's just like a big DJ library. And with the Launchpad, which I'm still using, I'm able to basically pick loops and play them straight away. And now I'm using 2 Launchpads. So one I'm using to launch pre-recorded loops, and the other I actually record some chords and stuff that I do with my hands.
So like MIDI sequencing, we're able to do that.
Yeah, that's what I do. But I take it as I talk about simplicity before. Like I try to use different sequencers, like helpers, but I found the most direct way is just to bang a melody on the keyboard, and just record. And that's I sequence in a very basic way.
There we go. Next question. Yes.
You have these controllers which you could trigger claps and such, and you also have these other controls to with the accelerometers. I was wondering, you want to interact with the people. Of course, sometimes you give them away. Do you have ideas for that as well, to have more interaction with people? And
Yeah, I love to interact with people because when I was younger, much younger, and I used to go to the clubs, and I didn't own turntables and haven't got much records, and I was always curious what the DJs do, how they manipulate the records, how they mix, and what is. I didn't had access to a mixer as well, so I was always on the front row looking what the DJs would do, and now I would say 25 years further, the technology changed so much, and I imagine there are kids, on the front row, the same like me when I was a kid, and I want to give them the opportunity actually to understand and to perform. And now the technology allows it. There's so many wireless devices. I can just walk in to the crowd and I do it. And sometimes it's a failure, but sometimes it's amazing. But to answer your question, those 2 things, they are made by a Dutch company called Oh Wow. And basically they respond on acceleration, and there is also gyroscope. And they send MIDI notes to the computer. And then this other thing, it's a bit bigger with the gyroscope, it's called Orbit by Newmark. Unfortunately, it's not manufactured anymore. So basically my ability to interact is based on what the companies are building. So, Roland.
That's why we keep doing it, right?
Exactly.
Next question. Okay.
I had a question about, like, you use these as musical instruments, like you play on them very natively, but each of these instruments, you mentioned that you're working again on your computer. Each of these instruments to integrate bring in your workflow a bit of complexity, because each one has a MIDI, one has an audio, one you have to record, one you have some other VST to connect. So how in your production process do you play around this complexity about different instruments that you use?
Yeah, I wish I could answer you that question. I'm still in a constant search of a good workflow because I'm generally very slow in the studio, and I'm planning to use the TR series by Roland because they are also MIDI controllers, and basically the TRS or just the 8. Those are drum machine sequencers, but also massive MIDI controllers. There's so many sliders and knobs. So I'm planning them to integrate them more in my studio, but at the moment it's just a matter of time and discipline. I don't have both. So yeah, I'm planning to integrate them more as MIDI controllers, and not so much to record the audio, because I cannot. That's what I found for myself. I'm not very good at committing to recording. I would rather have a recording open and I can come back and change at any time. I know other people, for example, Blavan, a really good techno producer, live act, DJ. He's very good at recording just the stereo. He's doing the mix down at the moment. His stereo recordings just sound fantastic. And it works for him. But I tried that and it doesn't work for me. So at least in my way, I would rather have the laptop computer as the sound source. And I would record MIDI. And I'm planning to integrate the TR series at some point.
Good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, so on this topic as well, what's your view on, because you basically produce an album every hour.
That's what you think.
But yeah, what's your view on finishing tracks and yeah, getting out there as an artist versus performing as a live act? And
yeah, for me, those are two very different things. And people have the impression that I'm, like you said, I'm finishing an album every 2 hours. But in reality, the minimum amount of time I need to finish a track, a dance track, simple dance track, is about 2 weeks. That's the minimum. And sometimes it's longer. Because what I'm looking for is certain simplicity in the music, and also I think of what the DJs can do, so I don't add that elements. I leave some space for the DJs to perform. And there are so many. I guess I'm overthinking when I produce. At the end, as I said, it takes me at least 2 weeks to finish one track, and I still don't have the solution, how to optimize it. But to answer your question, what is my opinion and my way of being in a studio against performing? Yeah, for me those have totally different approaches, because what I do live and what I did now, it was fun, but most of the patterns you heard, it's nothing you heard it before. It's nothing original. So it's fun, when we are together in one room, we are dancing and we're laughing. It's great. But when you buy a record, you don't want to hear the same patterns. And also when I play some chords with my keyboard, I'm not the best keyboard player. But in a live situation, it works. It's really enjoyable. But then when you buy a record, you play the record, you don't want to hear the same deep house records that you heard millions of times before. So that's why for me this live approach is totally different than working in a studio. But in current situation of ultra competitive market, like everybody realized that this is that music and dance music can be also very good business, and a lot of people these days we have more artists than audience. And everything helps. If you're a good performer, if you have good energy on stage, that's super important. But if you also are good in the studio, any kind of skill, any kind of knowledge is important if you want to break through and also to sustain your career. Because these days also we see people becoming superstars and the next day they're forgotten. So every skill is valid, and you should not think of, hey, I'm just a good performer, I should not produce. I think you have... in today's climate, we have to develop every possible skill, and I believe that's not torture. I believe if we love music, we should enjoy every aspect of it.
Some great tips there. Next question. I think we have time for one more. Yes.
Do you have any recommendations for someone that might be starting out with playing live, like where to start and don't know which synths or drum machines to buy?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm very dependent on my computer. So I think generally these days it's great to have a computer. I'm using Ableton Live, both for performing and recording, and I think this must be the ground zero, because once I mean, it doesn't have to be Ableton Live. It can be another software platform. There are so many good ones, Bitwig and other also more professional ones. But with the software, you can understand the signal flow. Virtually, you can understand how everything works, and then once you know more or less what you need, then you can go on the market and start buying. But I also love the TR series by Roland. So they're also not ultra expensive. So you cannot go wrong if you go with the TR8S. You cannot go wrong for sure. It's something. Even if it doesn't find its way to your set, or even if you don't record anything with it, it's just a beautiful instrument. You're gonna have fun, you're gonna be inspired. But also my advice is to be not to buy too much at once, just get familiar with the software. Maybe get something I mean, I own about 5 TR8s and now 2 TR8Ss, and not because I work with Roland. I mean, maybe I got one from them, but the rest I bought because I just love them so much.
We didn't know that, by the way. I keep telling him, stop buying stuff. Ask me.
But sometimes, I mean, I have to say some of them are not in perfect working conditions.
You beat them up.
So yeah, I beat them up.
But I'm going to remember that. I like that TR8S line. Yeah, you cannot go wrong. That's going to be on the next T-shirt. Okay, so I think we have 10 minutes left, and if it's all right with you, I'm going to ask KiNK if he can jam for 10 minutes. Are we all cool with that? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna surprise you guys.
Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna jam, of course. That's my favorite thing to do. But if somebody wants to join me on stage, if somebody is familiar with these machines, if somebody wants to come over, maybe we can
Don't be
jump
shy.
together. Yeah,
Don't be shy. Now's your chance.
Yeah.
Who wants to jam with KiNK?
I obviously cannot. Those are not wireless devices. I cannot come over you. But if somebody wants to, but you don't. Come over.
Okay,
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to, but you're invited. Whoever wants to come over.
Can we do 2?
As many as you want, seriously.
Go for it.
Let's
do that. Go for it. You've got to go. Come on.
So let me explain the signal flow. I mean, I don't even remember because we just set up 1 hour ago. So let's see. I'm actually gonna reboot this one because I got it locked in a very strange polyrhythm pattern. Okay, so let's see. Also, this one I'm gonna load the FM engine. And we are on the same position because I'm totally not familiar with this engine, and probably you're not familiar as well. So we are at the same starting point. That's pretty cool. So so this is giving clock to everything. Supposed to. MIDI out to MIDI in. Very good. But there is no. Okay, let me quickly check the MIDI. But that's the beauty of live act. I mean, some people are very excited about touring live, but what happens now, it happens every weekend to me before the show, and they are from 300 to 5,000 or 10,000 people in front of me waiting, and I'm just like, hey, sorry. So now I'm just looking for the MIDI clock settings. Everything was working just till 10 minutes ago, and now not anymore. MIDI. We're almost there. 6 minutes. Sync out off for some reason. Okay, now we put it on. And we are in the game. Starting from a clean pattern. Okay, now it's in sync. So this one I would suggest that we can use only for a bass synth. And there is a very simple way to do it. I'm just selecting bass, and I'm gonna clear the pattern. And now this becomes your keyboard. So now you just press press the keys and you make a pattern. So let's try that. Somebody just go for it. Yeah. Oh yeah. You got it. We got it. We got it. It sounds fantastic, actually. So now let me clear the pattern. So this is. So it's a blank pattern. And whoever wants, I don't know if anybody's familiar with a TR-8, you want to tap record. Yes, which sound, what kind of sound you want? I'm sorry? The clap. Wait a minute. That's the clap. You have to press this one. Sorry, just a moment. Sorry, just a moment. So now you only, let me start again. Now I'm not gonna record, so this is the clap sound, and you. Yes, that's it. That's fantastic. I'm gonna record some hi-hats. All right, that's a good start, right? And now, this is this weird FM kind of machine. Do you want more like a metallic sound or more like noisy kind of sound? Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Let's try. I mean, let's. I'm gonna put off the recording. Let me see how can I do that. Instrument play. So let's try. Come on. Interesting. So now, just a second. Yeah, now you just press this button and we see what happens. Strong. Yeah, that's wicked. I'm gonna add something more. Some more. Just. Oh yeah, nice. Well, that's something that maybe we should send a message to Roland. It's quantized, and it's amazing that it's quantized. But sometimes it's nice not to be quantized. Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no possibility. The moment it's recorded, it's always quantized. So there is, with the Roland machines, there is no option that to the 16s. Yes, no, yes, which is
great. One for the engineers. One for the engineers.
Yes. You have shuffle, you have groove factor, and you have some sort of a micro step. It's called the sub step feature, I guess. So you can do some sort of weirdness with the steps, but if you want to have this human recording, at the moment it's not possible. Oh yeah. That works. I wonder where the bass went. It's kind of disappeared. But it's okay. As long as, I mean, my motto in playing live is as long as there is a kick drum, it's all fine. That's it. That's. So it's I would use this right symbol because it's more powerful. So you just come over. If you want a step sequence, you can step. You want to tap. Okay, you tap this one. Yeah, we got it. And what else? Let's add some sort of polyrhythm. Oh, let's. I was talking about the sub steps. It's in a way it's polyphonic because each as I mentioned before on this drum machine, not on this one but this one, each channel can have independent length. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's put a snare. Now let's make it polyrhythmic. The bass is back, yeah, just a matter of balance. But the bass section is, this is the bass, like here. This is the bass. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sorry to be that guy. I'm afraid we are out of time. Please give it up for KiNK and his new crew.
Thank you guys, thank you so much. It's way too short. Thank you. Thank all of you for joining me on stage. It makes me feel so much more comfortable to you know, be surrounded with fellow artists doing our thing.
That was really fun, and thanks to all of the crew from ADE, Lighting, Sound, Attack Magazine who have been filming, and our photographer here. A lot of people work to make this stuff happen, so can we have a round of applause for everybody involved? Thank you very much.